What would you do if, in the middle of a courtroom known for its razor-sharp justice, someone looked the most feared judge in America straight in the eyes and called her clueless? Friends, this wasn't just any courtroom. This wasn't just any case. And this wasn't just any woman. This was Judge Judy, the name that makes even the most arrogant lawyers lower their voices. The woman whose stare has ended careers, whose wit slices through lies like a blade through paper. And yet, one person dared to do the unthinkable. Her name? Karen. And in a moment dripping with arrogance, she leaned back in her chair, smirk dancing on her lips, and said it loud enough for the court reporter to pause mid-typing, "You know what? You're clueless." Clueless. The word hung there like smoke after a gunshot. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Not the bailiff with the permanent frown, not the witnesses twisting their hands in their laps, not even the cameras that never missed a moment. The entire room seemed to freeze, as if the walls themselves were waiting to see what would happen next. Because everyone knew, Judge Judy doesn't let things slide. Ever. But this time, she didn't speak. Not right away. And somehow that silence was louder than any gavel. What did Karen mean? Was this some personal attack? A tactic? A meltdown? People leaned forward in their seats, breaths caught in their throats, wondering if they'd just witnessed the single biggest mistake anyone had ever made on daytime television. Even the air felt heavier, like the room itself was holding its breath. And then, slowly, deliberately, Judge Judy looked up. That stare, the one that could melt steel, locked on Karen. You could feel it coming. The explosion. The question wasn't if, it was when. And friends, when it came, it wouldn't just shake the courtroom. It would rip the roof off the entire internet. Because in the next few seconds, everyone would learn something about Judge Judy and about Karen that no one saw coming. To understand what happened next, you need to picture the courtroom that day, not the tidy, scripted version you see on TV reruns. This was real. Buzzing lights, restless spectators, the hum of cameras catching every twitch, every blink. A space where justice didn't whisper, it roared. And at the center of it all was the one woman who had ruled this room for decades, Judge Judith Sheindlin. The legend everyone simply called Judge Judy. Now, Judge Judy wasn't just another TV personality reading lines off a teleprompter. No, she was a former family court judge from New York, a woman forged in the fires of real cases, real tears, real consequences. Decades of lies, excuses, and courtroom theatrics had given her that trademark stare, the kind that made liars stutter and arrogant men suddenly remember their manners. She had seen it all. Fraudsters, cheaters, dreamers, desperate parents fighting for their children. But in all those years, very few people, very, very few, had ever looked at her and dared to question her authority to her face. Enter Karen. From the moment she walked in, there was something about her, not the nervous kind of energy most people had when they stood before Judge Judy. No trembling hands, no darting eyes. She strolled in like she owned the place. Perfect hair, crisp blazer, eyes sharp as knives, and when she spoke, it wasn't the timid, respectful tone everyone else used. No, Karen had this habit of dragging her words out just enough to make you feel like she was talking down to you, like everyone in the room was wasting her precious time. People whispered as she crossed the courtroom floor, heels clicking like a countdown to chaos. Some said she was a businesswoman, others claimed she was suing her former partner over money, but one thing was clear. Karen wasn't here to play by the usual rules. Still, nobody expected that moment. Before it came, the tension built slowly, like water rising behind a dam. Judge Judy asked her simple questions, facts, dates, evidence, the usual drill. Karen answered, but each reply dripped with sarcasm, like she was the smartest person in the room and everyone else was 3 steps behind. Spectators shifted in their seats. The bailiff's eyebrows inched higher. Even the court reporters started typing faster, sensing the storm brewing between these two women. One the queen of this courtroom, the other a challenger, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And then Karen leaned back in her chair, folded her arms, and said it loud enough for the court reporter to pause mid-typing, "You know what? You're clueless." Just like that. Not shouted, not whispered, just tossed into the air like a match in a room full of gasoline. For a second, Judge Judy didn't move. She didn't blink. She just looked at Karen like a hawk watching a mouse that didn't realize it was already caught. The audience froze. Even the cameras seemed to lean in closer, hungry for the explosion they knew was coming. But what made this moment so gripping wasn't just the insult. It was what Karen didn't know. Because behind that calm, unblinking stare, Judge Judy wasn't just deciding how to handle the disrespect. She was uncovering things. Pieces of the case, bits of testimony that Karen thought she could control. Secrets. Lies. The kind that can flip a courtroom upside down in seconds. And as the silence stretched on, everyone felt it. This wasn't going to end with a simple scolding. Oh no, something bigger was coming. The silence after Karen's words wasn't just awkward, it was electric, like a wire sparking right before it catches fire. The audience could feel it. The cameras caught it. Even the people watching from home later would talk about it for weeks. Because here's the thing about Judge Judy. She's not a woman you interrupt, not a woman you mock, and definitely not a woman you call clueless. But Karen didn't flinch. If anything, that smirk on her face grew wider, like she thought she'd just won something. Like this was a game, and she was already holding the trophy. And that's when people realized this wasn't just a disrespectful moment. This was personal. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair slowly, eyes never leaving Karen's face. The courtroom stayed frozen, every eye bouncing between the two women like spectators at the final round of a heavyweight fight. "Clueless," Judge Judy finally repeated, her voice calm, but sharp enough to slice through glass. Karen shrugged, tilting her head as if to say, "Well, aren't you?" The audacity made even the bailiff shift his weight nervously. He'd seen people talk back before, but this was like throwing a rock at a sleeping lion. Judge Judy didn't raise her voice, not yet. She just started asking questions again, her tone deceptively smooth. "Let's go over this one more time," she said. "You're suing your former business partner for $50,000. You claim he stole from you. Correct?" "Exactly. He drained the company account, left me with nothing, and ran off like a coward." Her voice dripped with venom, but underneath it, there was this confidence. Like she knew everyone was about to side with her. Like the cameras were capturing her big moment of triumph. But Judge Judy kept digging. "And you're saying you had no knowledge of any debts the company owed?" "None," she said quickly. Too quickly. Something flickered in Judge Judy's eyes then. Not anger. Not yet. Something else. Because here's what the audience didn't know. While Karen had been busy throwing insults, Judge Judy had been reading through documents, piecing together a story Karen thought she could control. And slowly, things weren't adding up. Judge Judy looked down at the paperwork again. Bank statements, contracts, emails. The kind of evidence that doesn't lie, even when people do. Meanwhile, Karen kept talking. She bragged about how she built the company from nothing, how her ex-partner was lazy, how she handled everything important while he just sat around cashing checks. But the more she talked, the quieter the courtroom got, because people could see what was happening. Judge Judy wasn't interrupting, and that was never a good sign. When she stayed quiet like this, it meant she was waiting, watching, loading the cannon before firing it. Finally, she asked, "Miss Karen, whose name is on this loan agreement?" Karen blinked. "What loan agreement?" "This one. Dated 3 months before your partner supposedly ran off, signed by—" "Oh, signed by you." The smirk faltered just a little. "I don't remember that." "Oh, I think you do. Because this loan, it wasn't for the company. It was for you. Personal expenses, paid out of